Hey, you guys, hold on. I'm going to put some music on. I love listening to music when I am online. It just sets the tone. I know you think that's funny that I say it sets the tone because I think people make fun of me because of it. Um, I don't know if anybody's joining me or anything. I um, I don't even know if anybody can hear this. Um, I was just thinking, I applied to this Craigslist ad about talking about a story about what's going on with this trial and stuff. Um, I don't know. It'd be funny to like go live and talk about like how the court is like, you know, illegal. So I know I'm pretty much just talking to myself, but like I said before, they don't have CPT codes for. I'm just in a good mood, you know. They should, you know. They should be like, hey, you want to come talk to me? Because, you know, whatever. Sean is not impressed with, you know, you know. I never said well, I did say it was going to be easy at one time. Oh. I should have said something different. I don't usually cut these, but I'm feeling lucky. I don't have anybody online with me. Well, that's still where I'm at. So I talked to this woman named Moni today. It was funny because she doesn't understand, like, and I ask her to do things like, hold on a minute, I gotta figure this out. This live broadcasting business is different. I don't even know if there's anybody that I invited. The control room, I'm going there. I don't know. I mean, I could just, talk about, Sabea and Mia are in school, and I've got a conference with their teacher. Of course, it's not, I don't know. It's funny. I sit around just thinking, how people like you would take like some of the things that I say, and I always tell Sean that just because it doesn't seem like you approve of what I say, that doesn't mean that it's not valid, you know. You know. This cards come up the same in the other deck. So, this thing. I love this thing. it makes me tingle. You know. Oh, I got some other music that I really like. I'm gonna start playing right now. I don't know if this interrupts anything when you're broadcasting live, playing music. Oh, probably not. I really do like the band, though. I saw them downtown where Sean works. Let's just. I like that guy. I'm gonna go and find some other music so that I don't have to interrupt the, signal. A lot of times I think that, what I'm thinking about is, like self stuff, discovery, and like I've already cleaned out all the cobwebs in my life. It's so funny because, I always say that people always thought that I was broken and I wasn't. I was there to, to help them. And now I'm not sure what the deal is with people. I if given a choice, about what I would choose, I think people would be really surprised. Sean quoted me as saying, "Hell would be a lot better if it was better organized." And I was like, you know. And it's funny too, because sometimes I say things like, "Oh, this is hell," and then somebody will come up, "Yeah, this is the nice part. You've already been through the bad part." And I was like, "Oh, wow, all right." Said I would walk through that for those two girls. And then some people say, "Well, you're not even really here, Stephen Philip Lindquist. You're in some trance-like state." And that's fine too. Oh, and then, Sean's always like, "Well, it's your fault that you had kids, with her." It's like, yeah, I don't know. Not that I had children. He's like, "Well, it's because it was with her." And I was like, yeah, she was different at one time, And then she just didn't know how to do anything, Her brother had to help me, like, and her dad. I'm not sure. So here are the two decks that I use. And I have a third deck. I just have it locked up right now. I don't say locked up, like that means like it's in the crypt. It's funny because this deck, I'll just pick a card out of random. I got that one earlier. And the other deck too. And I have this invisible friend. He's not really invisible. I email him. I suppose anybody really is invisible online. Like you could be invisible. I could too. Could all be smoke and mirrors. Don't get any ideas about that. No. It's funny. I really do hope they call to do that New York thing. Like I said, I needed a vacation, and then that like Craigslist thing was there. I was like, that would be like so good. I would be like, and I also said, I'll participate in it. See who can hurt Stephen the most. Because I'm like, no one really knows, how to get to me. You know, I know I've said this all before about like shedding layers of past issues and trying to move on. Well, I'm ready to move on. You know, it's not like I have to, you know, be a different person to do that. I at one time said, well, I'll be in every generation, reborn in every generation to make them see what they did. You know, maybe I am. I don't know. I like playing. Hold on. I like doing different things with with my photography background. I I don't know. I like just to mess around with different things, see what outside could look like. You know, it's just I don't know. The court. Like I said about the court. This is funny. They ordered me not to like discuss the case online or in public. Well, it's public. It's an open court, so it's just like, how can they order you not to do that? It's public knowledge. I just, oh, looks different out there, doesn't it? You know. And I like this one too. People are like, well, Stephen, you need to get out and do stuff and do this. And I'm like, oh, when you're living my life, do that. Because when I'm living it, I'll do what I want. Thank you. I tried to do this live earlier and I didn't have the right I don't know, extension or plugin, or because I deleted Chrome from my computer. It was like, oof, you know. So now I know, right? Sorry, Google. It's kind of part of the problem. You should make it so that you can interact better with Safari or one of the other browsers. I used to use like Netscape. Can you believe that? Way back when. That was seemed like forever ago now. Yeah. I talked to somebody at Apple support. He's a good guy, but he's funny. I think he's in league with those other people. He couldn't remember. Well, he remembered one email, but I sent them this log me in log about people breaking into my computer, and I just let it happen. It's like you can't hurt the willing, and you can't get to the willing unless you know what they want, or desire or dreams of. And so, and some people have called me the devil. I'm like, I would make the best devil in the world because I would make people's lives hell, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I wouldn't. I would organize it a little bit better. Sean told me that, and he'd be like, organize it. And I just, I don't know if you can see. Well, you probably can't see it from here. I'll shut it. Ooh, outside again. Oh, one of my candles went off. yeah, so I just, like I said, I like to like experiment with light and with doing photography work. I've already talked a lot about photography work. Oh, I'll talk a little bit about like personal beliefs. Well, I have a lot of them. You know, I have a lot of personal beliefs in spirituality and stuff. I know where my core values lie, you know, or where they are rooted in. Um, and in my life, I've been able to understand many sides of the same old thing, you know, spirituality versus religion versus personal belief, you know. And I go like this sometimes, or like this, you know, over here sometimes, and I go over here. And I'm usually right about here, you know. It's just the way I am. You know, it's not anything, you know, I think people are like, well, how can you just be like, change your beliefs the way you do? And I'm like, because, you know, you gain insights about new things, and then you're like, I could use that as a belief structure within my Stephen Philip Lindquist. And you notice how I say my name, Stephen Philip Lindquist? Stephen Philip Lindquist. Right, I know. Some people are like, oh, that name again. Stephen Philip Lindquist. 7/11, 1971. I'm proud of that. My name, Stephen Philip Lindquist. I said the trees once would carry that name, you know, and, you know, speak of me forever, you know. And, you know, like the other thing too, a friend of mine said is, don't do too much technology, don't do too much technology. Well, you know, some of my beliefs are, what is technology other than another form or tool or magic or, you know, belief structure or, you know, and there's, you know, room for technology within nature, you know. I just find that it's really fascinating that people are always like, your belief structure is corrupt, and I'm like, oh, so when you tell me yours and I don't judge you, you know, good. You know what? I appreciate other people's opinion. It doesn't mean I'm going to change my mind about it, though. You know, it's just like, you can have an opinion and you can say point blank to me, like, I don't like you. And I'd be like, good. Thanks for letting me know that. It saves me the hassle of having to, like, figure it out myself. You know, I would still be, you know, halfway decent to you. I'd be like, oh, hey, how are you? You know, are you having a nice day? You know, you know, you know. And there'd be some, you know, some that have helped in my life. Um, that'd be like, oh, like I need to like repay something, please. You know, I've gotten more people out of jams in their life, and medically wise, or just like, you know, they needed somebody to talk to, and they were like, oh, okay, he'll listen. Oh, and then somebody told me once too, you know, most people are glad you have problems, you know, they don't want to hear about it. Well, it would be something if they were forced to listen to me, you know, wouldn't it? Just like, oh, Jesus, here he goes again, you know, and that'd be nice. I don't know. It ought not be that way, but if it were, you know. I was thinking about this. Never mind. Oh, well, I'll talk about sexuality, which is really funny because everybody's like, eh, you know, and about duality and my ability to like be beyond it. Really, just like, you know, I always said like in relationships for me, it's not so much physical, sexual characteristics. It's always been about a connection, like how I connect with people. And people are like, well, it's like, well, you know what? Don't do it then, you know? But if you were forced to, you know? I don't know. You know, I'm just a weirdo. Yeah. And I'm all right with that. I've always been kind of, used to call me a half-breed, so I was just like, let's see what else I could talk about. Well, I've been doing these cooking shows. I'm a good cook, by the way. If you ever want to come for dinner, just, you know, I might be like, hey, sure. Why not? It won't be right that minute. You know, it's not like, oh, knock, knock. Oh, let me whip something up while you're just... No, I want to make it nice for you. You know. I used to have lots of people over for dinner. You know. That was another time. I know. Sean is always like, Steve, you should just lay low for a while. And I'm like, oh, yeah. And the other people are like, oh, just keep being the way you are. You know, the way you are, Stephen Philip Lindquist. Which is outspoken and, you know. And in the past, people thought I was shy and quiet. Well, underneath it. But, you know, a lot of those people that I met in the past ended up changing in some ways. And I don't know if that was, you know, they might not appreciate it. I thought it was like, you know, my presence alone creates change sometimes. Somebody joked that I was crowd control. I was like, well, maybe they didn't belong there in the first place. Have you ever thought about that? You know? Or maybe that's why I was there. Trying to save someone. Let's try this one again. I like this one. Outside is just like, oh! Should do that more often, is look at the outside from a perspective that is different. You know, sometimes I think about like infrared spectrums and, you know, and I sometimes like, well, I won't say what I do, but, you know, lots of my thoughts are on, you know, what's going on in this case, and, you know, my two daughters, Savea and Mia, and I, you know, and the state board of nursing. I get it, like, oh, he's state board of nursing, or he's board of nursing. Duh. And they're gonna try me again? Oh, I'm gonna go there and have to, like, well, they said I could, it's not open to the public. It's on October 2nd, you know? Not that anyone has to come, you know? Oh, I can only bring, somebody said bring witnesses, have people witness your inquisition. Well, I stand witness. And what's funny is that I can do this, and I could have totally different feelings about it. I don't know, it's just fun. It's not that I hide my true feelings, but people always said that I was good at wearing a mask, and I could just and then it was really hard to gauge whether I was upset, questioning, surprised, and that's not a bad thing. I mean, sometimes I laugh just because I'm like, I laugh at myself, like I'm sitting there thinking something and I'm like, I got that little thing right there. Oh, sorry, I had hat hair. I had my hat on earlier. Now that I know how to do this Google Plus thing, this Hangout thing again, I'll do it more often. These live ones. I was supposed to have a live event on, earlier, but I messed it up. I didn't know that you needed one of these. Oh, I suppose well, I'm not going to take you on a tour of the apartment, because that's, unless you've been here, then it's not. One day I was cleaning, and I found this receipt of this other person that lived here. Can you believe that? And the weirdest spot, too. And the weirdest spot. Oh, and I can guarantee you that if you get one of these, it'll be like, I got a psychic there, but it's just like all tingling. Somebody said to me once, oh, Stephen, you're just blabbermouth. It's not that I'm a blabbermouth. It's just that I believe we need to have truth. And maybe you like it, maybe you don't. Sorry. Got a little there. Yeah, I'm just looking at these ladies over here. I see them, they're walking around and like, oh, I volunteered to do this thing in the community again, and then I was like, I volunteered to do it, and I was like, why should I do it? Why should I help? I mean, I volunteered to. And then I'm like, no, I've asked the community to be like, not that I would rule with an iron fist or an iron maiden. Even though I always thought, I wonder if it would have been hard to shut those things. you know? Maybe some of you know. I don't know. And I'm sure I'm supposed to be peaceful and like meditating. And most of what I do is for me, Stephen Philip Lindquist, 7/11/1971. On one hand, I have, well, and the other, my grandma taught me a lot of things. Esther Dorothy Lindquist. You know, I love saying her name too. And my grandfather, Philip Roland Lindquist. And you guys know already that I do all this genealogy stuff. And, oh, I did that thing with I don't know if you ever saw that video. You know? That's kind of a cool video. And it's funny, too, because I think some people think that I would, you know, I'd be here to hurt them or, you know, I'm not. You know? I just think there's a lot of chickens that don't want to come up and talk to me in this. It's like, do you have a cigarette? You know? You know? And I don't know. Sean's probably going to be mad at me again, like, but like I said, free spirit, you know, no one cages me into like into anything that I don't want to be in the first place. That's devilish, isn't it? Not knowing whether or not it was a trap or if I was a trap. This music always gets me. And it's banned in some countries. Good thing it's Minnesota. I mean, it's like... Well, and this thing helps too. Okay, so I talked a little bit about... Oh, there's the control room up there. I don't know what I can do with this thing, if I can... Ooh, questions and answers? I don't want to mess with it while I don't want to do any effect. Last time I did that, I had these horns. Goofy. Oh, and sometimes I look, this morning I looked out the window and I counted like 13 crows, and I know this is I already said this today. I'm not sure why I repeat it. Sean's like, well, you're like a broken record, and it's like, I guess if my name was Torn Philip Heartmaker. But Stephen Philip Lindquist is amazing. It goes like this sometimes. And then sometimes like this. Sometimes like this. I got some buddies that I gotta thank for that one. And I've done so many weird things in my life. I'm sure I posted all the pictures of it. Oh, my family thinks, again? You just speak your mind. You know? Good thing it's live, because this music makes me just... and I've been having these visions, and one of them, I'm being carried like this. And these winged beings are carrying me. And then on the side, and there's horses on the clouds. And this thing comes up on the side of me like a wave of smoke and eyes. And I know I'm alright. And then I was like, this one vision. And I kind of wonder sometimes, why have visions and things that I see if you don't share? Maybe you're not supposed to share them. Maybe you are. You know, if I had visions that were like our dreams, like I had another dream the other day, well, a while ago. I hadn't had a dream in a while. It was just a really neat dream. Oh, I was gonna... I don't know, it's just random. Figured out that too. Fondom, runs, finger. Whatever. I had some other, I journal in different places. Oh yeah, this one. I told him once. That's what he wanted. I said, next time, be sure that's really what you want. You know? Easy. Not at all. And my daughters, Sabea and Mia, you know, they're in 1st and 2nd grade now. Or who knows what grade they're in there. Sean says, Steven, you're not. And then I'm like, well, what am I then? You know, I know what I am. Ooh, I am Steven Philip Lundquist. Either way, I said that at one time. I said I would be worse dead. Oof, can you imagine? Can you imagine the incessant talking that would go on in the underworld? It'd be like, no, heaven and hell would get no rest. It'd be like endlessly God-forsaken, just talking. I'd be fine with that too. You know. Mainly, I'm into doing this meditation stuff, and part of my meditation routine is to like purge this stuff. I talked to my friend, and I reread Thich Nhat Hanh's book, and I was like, oh, that's so different than what I read it the first time. So I was correcting, making notes in it. And there's another book called Anger, and it's not even about anger. I tried to get people to read it in the past. They weren't interested. I find stuff too. Oh, I didn't find this. I used to carry it. It's my grandfather's. I talked about it already. Anybody knows a watchmaker that could fix it? I said this before. Oh. Sometimes it changes time by itself. And I'm too afraid to pry it open myself. You know, I've done that before. Broke watches. Yeah. And then you guys have known this before. I collect, you know, I go on walkabouts and I collect, you know, feathers. And other things like my little no. I was gonna switch this again. See. Once in a while, I just talk about some like really weird things, like well, when I'm cooking and stuff, I never follow the recipe. I know, right? And sometimes surprising things happen when I do that. It's like, you know, I look at the recipe and then I'm like, oh, I think I'll substitute these things and put these things in it. You know, I usually take notes about that, about, you know, about like, this would be better with like this. Oh, I see I got one viewer on. Thank you. I know my other candle went out. And it looks really different when you look at it in different lights. I'm not saying that that is something that you should do, is try to look at, you know, try to get a different perspective from where you're at, you know. It's always nice. That's what I think people had a hard time with me about, is like, I could take a look at like how women felt about things, and then how men felt about things, and then, you know, how I felt about things, and I could be like, oh, those crows again. You know, there's a secret about crows, and I used to search the countryside for them. We had them as pets on the farm. I'm looking at my great-grandmother, Ida. You know, I have her on the refrigerator to look at me every morning. It's funny too, because I, in the family historian in my family, and I'm just trying to figure out who would do that besides me, besides Stephen Philip Lindquist. There doesn't seem like there's anyone yet, you know. So I just, one day, you know, that's why I'm making these videos about my family and our experiences, my experiences growing and, you know, going from these stages of development and sometimes plateauing. And sometimes back down there. And that's not bad. Some people have kind of a development pattern like this. That's what I call stagnation. I see development as going and then you kind of regress, and you go up, you learn, and you go up, keep learning, and then there's some leveling off, and then, you know, it could go like this, and some people go. And that's where people think that I've had problems in my life, is that I've gone, you know, sometimes like this. But I always, like, you know, I always create better things when I fall. And I've learned so much about that in my life that new things get developed when you reach a point where you're like, okay, now you're not hit rock bottom, but it's just like, okay, now I can start all over again. And people are like, how can you just give up a career and this and then be like, you know, it's because I'm not stagnating in the water. I'm, you know, and that's another thing about, like, relationships too. If relationships are just, I know, and in relationships in the past, I, you know, argue and, you know, and I validate that other people have feelings about things, you know, and that's good. It doesn't mean that I have to feel bad about that, though. You know, that's not it. You know, there's some parts where it's like, speak your mind and have an understanding between each other. Like, I'm going to be able to speak my mind. I'll hear you. I don't have to agree with you, but I can understand that that's how you think it. And so, you know, there's got to be a way, and this is what's happened in the past, is, I think this happens with people, is that they get so caught up with, oh, you're attacking me, instead of realizing that, no, that other person maybe just needs to say it for themselves. And that's what I do. I say a lot of stuff just for Stephen Philip Lindquist to be like, and so I can hear it myself. You know, and then they're like, well, you rehash it. Well, sometimes it comes up, and I'm constantly being like, you know, I went down and settled this court case, and then it's like, oh, no, you're not done. There's a counter lawsuit. You've got to keep going, got to keep going. And I'm like, how does that work? A counter lawsuit? For what? I'm not sure. So it's just like, you know, this, like with the State Board of Nursing, I went down there. They're like, well, your stuff isn't here, and I was like, well, I'm going down there. I want to see you. And so I got down there, and I was just like, you know, really, you know. But I wanted to go in there and just be like, you know, I'm here, you know, like it or not. And they didn't like it. They said the Attorney General, and then it wasn't really the Attorney General. It was some assistant that sent me something. Oops, I said too much again, right? I don't know if you want to check out any of my old videos. I've posted quite a few of them. Or if you have any ideas of things that you want me to talk about, I'd be more than happy to talk about them. I don't have really any topics that are like off limits. You know, I guess there's topics that I keep like this, and a lot of it has to do with my own memory of them. And this is where I think some psychology gets mixed up. And I've said this to psychology before. I've talked about all this stuff before. And what's really important is to look at, okay, so I've talked about all this stuff. Now let's talk about what's going good, which I do on an inward level. I know what's going good. But they can't bill insurance for that. You know, I said that yesterday. There's not a CPT code for. I just need an objective person to hear me. You know, there's not. You can't bill insurance for that. Wouldn't it be nice? It's just like, oh, you've got happy syndrome, or you know, you've just got normal life syndrome, and that's okay. You know, I talked about innate health and mental health being that full spectrum of health, and we all have that in us. Or who knows what we have now? But I mean, we all have those times where it's like, I feel like this, or like this, or like this, or like this, and that's okay. I think it's okay. I know it in myself, and Stephen Philip Lindquist, that when I am like this, that's okay. And when I'm like this, that's okay too. I like to be here. I like that. Yeah. I don't actually mind being that at all. I don't mind, you know, I don't know how people think, you know, some people have said, well, my life is perfect, I don't have any problems, and I'm like, oh, okay, good, I'm glad you don't have any problems. Like, you don't have a problem when you get up in the morning and you can't find your toothpaste, or when your car won't start, or when you make a wrong turn, or, you know, maybe those aren't problems for you. Maybe they're not. Maybe you take it out on other people different ways, and it's a problem for the other person. You see what I'm saying? And I was thinking about going over to the Teen Challenge and, you know, getting a job there. And then I keep trying to get out of the healthcare field. My whole life has been spent helping people in some way or another. And I really like, you know, my creative side, and I haven't been able to express it a lot. Well, recently I've been doing it a lot. Excuse me. And I think that's funny how, you know, like those compartments I was talking about of your life, and then when they go, you know, how freeing that is. And now I can focus on being, well, I'm a father first, but in that is like I'm a creator, a visionary, a writer, you know, an amazing cook if you ever want to come over. Yeah, and there's, you know, I keep the candles in the jewel box. Get it? I know, right? I'm crazy. No, I'm not crazy. I would say you should see what I test on, and it's like, you know, I recently, I keep getting calls from the University of Phoenix, and I keep trying to find schools that I want to go to. I have enough graduate credits. I mean, it's so funny because it's like, why would I go into a program when it's like I have enough credits? And so I kind of decided that it's like not worth it at this point in my life to be pursuing school. Yeah, I'm doing other learning, and so I should really light these, but I'll light this one. So I know that the weather is changing and it's been cold, and it's not bad, you know. I don't mind. You know, I've gotten used to any kind of weather. And I guess that's just from exposure, you know. Certain amount of exposure. That's how you get used to the weather. Is you just either you wear lighter clothes in the winter, increase your exposure level to the coldness, or you just grin and bear it. It's cold, but it's Minnesota. I mean, move south if you want to be warm. Um, Even though I wouldn't mind being like in a temperate climate all the time, that would be really nice. Um, let's see. I'm not really sure what to say anymore. I have some friends that I haven't like seen or talked to in a long time. And I think even with my own family, I talk to them and I'm like, for one, I have been telling people a long time, take care of yourself, take care of yourself, take care of yourself. And I know it's hard for me to do that sometimes, for myself to do. But then people are always like, well, I don't feel good now. And I'm like, really? Well, that's because you've been running yourself ragged for months. And every time I tell you to like slow down, it's like, okay, well, and even within like, well, I talked about organization structures and stuff, but you can see how companies and certain religions and certain other organizations get sick from the inside, and then they're like, oh, what's going on? And it's like, well, you don't have people that understand that within cultures, there's cultures. Even within classified cultures, there are subcultures. And then even those are like subdivided into like, I thought about that once, organizational psychology and industrial psychology. And I thought, I already know that. I mean, you could take the human body as like, an organizational, psychology study, So I think it's funny. Sometimes I'm like, what is going on with people? Some people that I know that don't know their own lives, and I'm like, and I'm not here to tell them what their lives are, what their stories are, and I think, Sean and I agree that it's like everybody's on their own path, and my path that I've been on is to kind of shed these layers, and that's not, some people are like, just stop it, and I'm like, you know what, it's for Stephen Philip Lindquist that I'm doing it, I know that I've been having problems getting communications out, and I've been having problems with people breaking into my computer, and some of it I know is just a joke, and I am more than willing to be. It shows what kind of person would either let that go on or who would be doing it, and of course the better person would just be like, you know what, if your self-worth is only gained by stealing other people's information and digging into their dirt in their lives, then who is the better person? I'm not a judgmental person. I have some ability to be like, yes, I would judge that on a level of, I would hear both sides, and then listen to where I would, be in the middle, like, oh, okay, well, I can understand this point of view and this point of view really well, you know? And generally what I would do is I'd be like, all right, why can't you come to an agreement between yourself, and why do you need a middleman? You know? Well, usually the middlemen are the people that can be objective and watch and be like, you know, I could see that perspective or that perspective, and it's not always easy, I guess, for other people. And Sean says that some people are just really black and white about things, and I'm like, how is that even like, you know, who would do that? Who could have such, you know, I don't know. I guess I would have to be like, get off your high horse and start groveling with other people, you know? Or, you know, go help somebody and see what it's like. You know, see what it's like. You know, recently I did those experiments with being blind and then not being able to hear, kind of that sensory deprivation. It's really hard unless you have like a real, because you're still feeling like either air movement or touch. I'm going to check out the sensory tanks just to see like, you know, what would that be like? You know, I'm not, at first I thought, oh, I'd be kind of claustrophobic, and then I was like, not really. It's kind of like when you're swimming underwater, except when I swim underwater, I can hear, you know, my heart, sometimes it feels like it's going to the shore. And so, yeah, and you can see, I mean, that's why you have to have, like, you know, I can see stuff when, you know, behind my art, with my eyelids closed, I can still see movement. So, I'm just like, I'm trying to come up with ideas of things to talk about, or, oh, hold on, I was going to read this. How's that for walking away from a lie? Oh, I was going to read. Well, this is from my grandma's book. Oh, it's got these pages in it. I just, it's like I could use it outside to get a suntan. You know? And I won't say who wrote these things. We count the broken lyres that rest where the sweet wailing singers slumber, but o'er their silent sister's breast the wild flowers who will stoop to number. A few can touch the magic string, and noisy fame and crowd to win them. And then it goes on, but I won't read the whole thing. It's just, I love this book, you know, and Grandma told me to keep it. I know you think that's crazy, but she told me to keep stuff. And I'm going to be done now. I love you.